Jai Gurudev. Good morning. It's very nice to be here with all of you. We are very happy to be here today. Sahadev and Vrishaparva there. Swami Akash, for the ones who don't know me. And we're very happy because we can talk about the greatness of our Guru. And it's always a great moment, especially when you basically are all forced to say nothing and we are forced to talk. So it's going to be very nice. And the title of the class today is Sadguru Mahima, and Mahima is the greatness. So we're going to talk about the greatness of the Guru, or the glory of the Sadguru. Of course, we are not going to talk about the general Sadguru, even though we will talk about different stories, but we will mainly talk about our Guru, that is a living legend and the greatest possible. How many of you are absolutely new? Raise your hand. Don't worry, even if you're new, there's no discrimination. We're not going to throw you out. Just to understand. Okay, just a few. Great. We will use different Sanskrit terms. We will explain them. If you get lost, you can ask somebody close to you, or now we remember your faces, so you can lift your hand and you can ask a question so that we can go through. Are you ready to listen about the glory of the Guru? Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And in August, there will be the Guru Gita commentary from Guruji. And that's also one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about the Guru, is because we believe it's going to be 2 amazing weeks that we can spend together with him. When he spoke about the Guru last time was an amazing opportunity for him in 2015 to talk about himself, to talk about the role of the Guru, the role that he has for all of us, and he could explain it to us. And what is better than having the Guru himself, who tells you and explains to you how to behave with him, how to listen to him, what are the instructions and what are his, let's say, expectations from his side for all of us, according to what we have to do, that he wants us to do. Who's not coming for the Guru Gita in August? Great, nobody, perfect. You all come, great. Great. Okay. What is the nature of the Sadguru? So there is this verse in the Guru Gita, is verse 24. Japastapo vratam tirtam yagno dhanam tatevacha Guru-Tattvam avijnaya sarvam bhirtam bhavet priyem. My beloved, japa, tapasya, vratas, holy places of pilgrimage, yagna, charity, and so forth, all become useless for one who is ignorant of the Guru-Tattva. We give some time at the end of the verses for the translators to catch up. So here he's saying, my beloved, all these different practices, for the ones who were here in the morning for prayers, that heard the verse that I used from another scripture, heard that the true meaning of the Vedas is to find back home where God dwells, where Narayana is. And here he's saying that japa, tapasya are the austerities, vratas, the pilgrimages that you make, the yagnas and sacrifices that you do, charity, and so forth. Basically, everything that you do, every action that you do, become useless for one who is ignorant of the nature of the Guru, of the essence of the Guru, of who the Guru is. And we might have heard many times, for the people who have been here many times and have been listening to Guruji, that to be with the Guru is like doing all of these austerities in one. To be with him and to walk with him wherever he goes, whether he goes to the garden or he goes to the tent, or he passes by the lobby, or he goes to India or somewhere around the world, is visiting a place of pilgrimage, because he is the greatest place that you can visit. Because he is the repository of everything that we need. we need to get to know him, to give value to everything else that we have. He's the one that will teach us and will purify us to be able to give the right meaning to whatever that we do. Because there is something beautiful if you look at the rituals that we do. We always do a sankalpa at the beginning, right? We start the ritual with an intention. And why do we do an intention before performing an act? Because everything that we do, every action that we do has an intention behind. You do things with an intention to achieve something. And so he's the one who gives us the true and real meaning of what we are doing. And we have to get to know him. The more we know him, the more we will know God and the more we will know ourselves. But the question is how to know the Guru, because it's complicated. You might have heard Guruji saying many times, or you might have heard some of us saying that Guruji told us, you think you know me, but you have no idea of who I am. You personally told me this many times. Why is this funny? Because why? He has this ability to have thousands of faces. Not because he has split personality, but because he will find himself in the best way to fit with the way that we are. And whenever we think that we found out about him, whenever we think that with our mind we grasped him and we can put him in a box, he's there ready to destroy that box. He's ready to say, hi, you thought you understood how I think. Let me do exactly the opposite of what you thought. And I know that you might have this experience yourself. I had multiple. And I always find myself confused and amazed at the same times, because the Guru is a human being also. He is like us. And slowly, the more you get to engage with him, the more you listen to him, the more you see him, you get comfortable, because that's one of the most beautiful things about the Guru. He comes and he makes himself accessible. He doesn't come like Narasimha, because it would be very scary. How many of you would have like, oh wow, Guruji invited me for dinner, and then you go there and there is Narasimha sitting there. It's not the most inviting. Maybe some of you will be happy about it, but I tell you, so the Guru makes himself incredibly accessible for all of us to be able to purify ourselves. And if you read the first point, it says, we are limited in our understanding and our knowledge is imperfect. Because that's something that we all share. We are limited in the way we grasp things. Even right now, while I speak, I'm saying things, and there are some of you who understand something, some of you that understand something else. I hope some of you is actually understanding what I mean, but I don't even know it. I don't even know it, and that's something that we all realize because we all have communication. We all communicate with each other. And how many times you say something and the person understands the opposite? Many, especially in marriage. No, I don't know. No, in everything. I believe in everything, in every situation, with your boss, when you work. You have those situations where you say something, you mean it in one way, and the other person just understands something else. And in situations like this ones today, we will try to do our best to define what we mean so that you can understand what we mean, okay? Because whenever we say God or we say anything, we mean something and we're not maybe sure what you actually mean. So we're going to define it. And that's why we're going through this introduction part where we explain what we actually mean by our limitation. We don't have enough discrimination. We are not in tune enough to understand in the best way the Guru. Do you all agree to this? Yes. Very convinced. I like it. If we want to have the right knowledge of a subject, we must have the right means of knowledge. That we put also for the ones who are taking notes. There are many of you. There are the Sanskrit terms sometimes. We don't want to confuse you too much, but pramana are these sources of knowledge. How do you acquire knowledge? Again, that's something that you have to think. Right now, for example, you're acquiring knowledge by perception. You're using your senses. You either use your sight to read the slides, you're using your hearing to listen to what I'm saying. And with your mind, with the sixth sense, you're compiling everything that you're getting from the senses. And so we have to, if we want to have the right knowledge of a subject, we must have the right means of knowledge. We must have the right way to acquire that knowledge. Our senses cannot reveal the nature of the sadguru because of, in brackets, fault of direct perception. Now, if we all agree, in this room at least, that we all are based on our perception of the senses. Can we all say this? I guess so. Yeah. The problem is, if we base the relationship with the Guru, if we base our seeking of knowledge of the nature of the Guru just based on our direct perception, are we going to succeed? It's going to be very complicated. Because by itself, the Guru is very challenging and is controversial by nature. Guruji says, my job is to challenge your mind. And the mind is where all these senses are grouping our perception. So he says, I will make problems for you. I will challenge your mind because otherwise you will not change. Our logic is limited to what we can perceive, but its nature lies beyond perception. Okay? Guruji is so much beyond perception. I'm sure you found yourself in situations where something nice happened to them and they tell you, oh, that was Guruji for sure. But was that real perception or was more faith or a decision? Because they told me a story the other day that somebody was stopped by the police and was dressed like this. He had the tilak and the sari, and then was stopped in Switzerland. And Switzerland is a beautiful country, but not for driving. Not for driving, let's be honest. Especially if you're, I don't know the other countries, but if you're Italian and you drive in Switzerland, you might enter Switzerland and never exit because they keep you there in jail. They're very strict with driving regulations and stuff like this. So she made a U-turn on a double line that is like capital sin. You see some Swiss people are already suffering. And the police was there. So the police arrived and they stopped and said, you know that you did something, we could take your license. And she apologized, but she said that the policeman saw the tilak, and she said that his eyes changed. And then the police guy said, it's fine. Just don't do it again. That this is absolutely not the experience of any of us who went to Switzerland when we had an encounter with the police. So what was their reaction immediately? That was clearly Guruji. Clearly Guruji. But again, the problem is that deduction, perception is faulty. You can't really base it so much on that. There's a lot of fault in understanding something as supernatural and extraordinary as the Guru. So it's very difficult to base the way that we acquire the knowledge of the Guru based on these two ways to acquire knowledge. Perception with the senses and then deduction of what we have already seen. Therefore, the last point, the only pramana, the only source of knowledge we have to approach His glory is Shabda, the word of the scriptures and the saints who have seen the truth. So given that we all agreed that we have these two ways to get knowledge, that is direct perception and deduction in inference, is faulty, we cannot really grasp it. Shabda, the testimony of the scriptures, the testimony of the saints, is the way to acquire that knowledge. Because they have seen that truth. When we read a poem of a saint, he's not talking about something that that saint read at university when he was studying is an experience, is a lived experience that gets translated for all of us to partake of that beauty and that bliss that they were into. Yeah. And the scriptures are revealed. The scriptures are revealed by these seers, by the great rishis, by these great sages who received that knowledge and then they gave it to us. So, we'll talk about Guru-Tattva today. We will go through the Upanishad. Okay? The Upanishad are that part of the Vedas where we talk about more philosophical things. Some of you might know that we chant the Narayana Upanishad, for example, one of the easiest ones that you can remember to relate it to. And in the Upanishad, Vrishaparva, also known as Shastri Baba, because he's a great knower of Shastra, scriptures. He spends a lot of time reading. He reads always, I'm telling you. He's always taking classes, courses, learning stuff. So he's going to talk about what he loves the most, that is scripture. So he's going to talk about Upanishads and mainly about the role of the guru there and what is happening in the Upanishad related to this topic that is going to be revolve around the knowledge of the self. But then he will explain better what is happening there. Then Sahadev will talk about the Bhagavatam because he's also a great philosopher, great philosopher. But he's more into the mood of longing. Yeah, it's more less mind, more heart. It's not that the other one doesn't have a heart. It does have a heart. Beats is there, but we're talking about a different thing. And he will talk about the knowledge of bhakti. The knowledge of bhakti, so the knowledge of devotion that is given there, and he's gonna focus on something specific that you will see later on. But again, we will see the role of the guru there, and then he will explain to us what is happening there. That is very beautiful. And then I will go with the saints, mainly because was the third category that left out when they took the other two. And because of that. And I will talk about the knowledge of the name. Okay? So basically, we will see these different ways that the Upanishads, the Bhagavatam, and the saints, that are all Shabda, that reliable testimony that we said, that way to acquire knowledge, will talk about the Guru and what the Guru will say in those scriptures. Okay? So mainly scriptures in the first two, and in the third one we have the poems. And we will read what the saints say.
Sahadev. So yeah, as Swami Akash said, we will talk about the Upanishad and how the Upanishad talk about the Guru. Because this is a very important thing. And why do we start with the Upanishad? It's because the Upanishad are the very core of Hinduism. So all the philosophy, all the Vedanta, all the philosophy from India, let's say, that follows the Veda in any way, are based on these Upanishad. And so there is many Upanishad, there is more than 1,000, but there is only 10 which are very, very, very important and commented by many, many Acharya. And so the Chandogya is one of the main ones, maybe the most important one also. And we will see how the sadguru in the Upanishad, so the gurus of the Upanishad, give this knowledge of the self and talk about God also. For that, we will see the story of Shvetaketu and Uddalaka. How many of you heard about that? I don't expect many people to say yes. Shvetaketu, Goji told this story many, many times. But it's not very, we don't know it so much because it's not like a saint. But Shvetaketu and Uddalaka is one of the core story in the Upanishad. So first, what are these Upanishads? So in Hinduism, you have the Veda. the Vedas, they are like like Swami Akash say, what the rishis, like what the seers have seen in their vision. So in deep, deep, deep samadhi, they have seen something. They have heard mantras. They have heard some praise, let's say. They compiled all those into what we call the Veda. And in this Veda, there is different parts. I will not go into that now. But in this Veda, there is what we call the Upanishad. The Upanishad is like the essence of the Veda. It is the philosophy of the Veda. It talks about God, the self, and this reality, let's say, reality. And so, Chandogya Upanishad, as I say, is maybe the most important one. Upanishad means to sit down near. So it means to sit with the Guru, close to him, and to listen what he is saying. So the Upanishad, they are something that came only through guru-disciple relationship. It's not like something that was written, and then they give the book to somebody else, and then we study that. No. It was only guru-disciple, guru-disciple. And so it came like that. Only 5,000 years ago, it was written. Before, it was not the case. And so, Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, give the story of Shvetaketu and his father Udalaka, also known as Aruni. Aruni is actually his real name. And we will see how Udalaka, he show this role of the sadguru as the one who gives the knowledge of the self, and how the self is connected, relates to Brahman, to Bhagavan, to the supreme being, the supreme reality. So that's what we will see in this story. So Shvetaketu, he was a young boy of 12 years old. He didn't study anything at that time. And so his father, Udalaka, came back from pilgrimage. And he told his son, now it's time for you to go and to study. And maybe you are familiar with this. In India, especially at the Vedic time, this old time in India, time of the Upanishad, the study was not done like we do it now. It was, you have to go and live for 12 years with the Guru. That's why we say a Guru Kula. Kula means family. Like Kula Devata means the family deity. Kula means family. Guru Kula means the family of the Guru. So the students go and live for 12 years with the Guru, and they take the vow of brahmacharya. So for 12 years, they live as brahmachari, and they study all the Vedic knowledge. So that's what Udalaka told Shvetaketu to do. He said, now it's time for you to go and find a teacher. He will give you all this Vedic knowledge. So Shvetaketu, he went, very happy with that. And so after 12 years, he came back. So he was 24. But he came back, he was very, very arrogant. He was very proud because he learned so many things. We will see what he learned after. But he learned many, many, many things. And so his father questioned Shvetaketu. He said, but does this boy really know anything? Because he's so proud. So if he really knew something, he will not be that arrogant. Because there's a saying we will see, vidya dadati vinayam. Meaning vidya, knowledge, dadati gives humility. So you say, if this boy really knew something, he will not be that arrogant. So I have to challenge. And so he asked him this famous question that Guruji often mentioned. He said, yeah, for sure your Guru told you many, many things. But did you ask him about that by which the unerrable become heard, by which what is not seen becomes seen. Have you asked him about that by which the unknown become known? So yena shrutam, shrutam, amatam, matam. So amatam, what is not seen becomes seen, and avignatam, vignatam, what is not known become known. And that's a very important question, because here his father is telling him that there is one thing, that if you know that, you know everything. And that's really the key concept in the Upanishad. To know that thing by which we can know everything. And so Shvetaketu, he was super confused. Because he was like, okay, I studied for 12 years. I learned so many things. But this I never heard about. This the Guru didn't tell me. That this... And so he was he was confused. He was broken. His pride was destroyed, let's say. And that shows the difference between the Guru and the Satguru. Because what Shvetaketu learned, let's say for years, is a lot of knowledge, but that are linked with this reality. He didn't learn about the self. He didn't learn about Brahman, about Bhagavan. He learned only about specific things, all the Vedic yagna, all the Vedic rituals, but he didn't learn about the essence of things. So here we see, because we have to understand what Shvetaketu studied during these days in the Gurukul. So in the Mundaka Upanishad, it's a different one, also very famous. Knowledge is said to be of two types. Paravidya, so the higher knowledge, and Aparavidya, the lower knowledge. And so it says the higher knowledge, let's start with the lower one. The lower knowledge, Aparavidya, it's all the Veda. It's all the rituals. It's how to pronounce Sanskrit. It's how to write or understand Sanskrit. It is how to write poetry, for example. It's Jyotisha, astronomy, understanding the planets and all these things. This is all the Aparavidya, the lower knowledge. And Shvetaketu, that's what he learned. And in Gurukula, that's what most of them learned. This knowledge of how to understand the Vedic hymns, how to perform sacrifice, how to please the devas, the demigod, if you want to call it like that. But they didn't learn about that essence of things that the Sadguru teach. And this is the Paravidya, the higher knowledge. And this higher knowledge is, again, as Guruji explained many times, this higher knowledge is that by which, if we know that thing, everything is known. And that is Bhagavan. For somebody who realized Krishna, for somebody who realized Brahman, the ultimate reality, everything is realized. You don't need to know anything else. For a realized being, everything is known. Like Swami Akash was saying, he will talk about the saints. Why the saints are so important? Because they have realized that Paravidya, that's higher knowledge. And so they know everything. Any subject they know, because they know the essence of all things. And that is the idea here. And so his father will start to give some teaching about this Paravidya. He will start to explain to him this higher knowledge. So it will be a bit abstract, so to say. The Upanishads, they are not the easiest thing to understand, but I will try to do my best to make it easier, let's say. So let's start with that. I will try something also. Yes. So the first thing his father told him is that in the beginning was being alone. It means that in the beginning was the Lord alone. There was only the Lord, nothing else. And this being, he taught, he said, Bhausham, let me become many. Let me grow forth. Let me expand. So that's a key concept. say the Lord in the beginning was alone. And this doesn't mean that we didn't exist. It doesn't mean that these material things didn't exist. But everything was inside Bhagavan in a potential way. That's a bit. Let's give you some time for that. Everything was inside the Lord in a potential way. For example, you can imagine you have the clay and you have a pot. The pot exists in the clay in a potential way. That's the idea behind it. See? So the Lord was alone with all this potency inside, all this potential inside. And so, as it is written here, Bahusyam, let me become many, Bahu, many. And that's the key, that's the first teaching that his father gave him. And so, from that, Uddalaka will explain to Shvetaketu how the Lord becomes many, but stays one. Because that is the core teaching also in Guruji. Because what do we see? Guruji gives the example, for example, of Saint Tukaram. And Tukaram say, I don't see Tukaram anymore, there is only Vital. So when he is realized, he sees only Vital. Everything is one for him. So how is it possible that there is so many diversity, at the same time the saints, they see only oneness? And that will be explained here by Uddalaka to Shvetaketu. How this Lord who wished to become many, becomes many, but stays one. So we start with a quote from Guruji. Sahadev will use it also after, so we can try to memorize it. He says, this world is created by God, and everything comes from Him, and in this sense is Him. So what Guruji is saying here, it was on the 1st of June, is that the cause and effect, they are one. So that's the concept. The cause and effect, they are one. Everything comes from God, and so everything is Him. Everything is one with Him. There is duality, but this duality exists in a oneness. And that's the concept here. And to explain that, Uddalaka starts to give some analogy. So he says, Shvetaketu, in the same way, if somebody knows the clay, he knows all the pots made of clay. That's a very deep thing. He said the one who knows the substance, he knows everything that is made of that. Because the pot, they are nothing else than clay. They are just different shape of the clay. In the same way, all of us, all the jivas, all the Atma, Prakriti is just a different manifestation of Brahman, a different potential of Brahman that manifests of Bhagavan. So the idea behind is that if you know that Supreme Being in which all the potential exists, then you know everything. You know all the manifestation. Then he told him, now go to this tree and give me the seed. Take some seeds inside your hand. And so Shvetaketu did. And his father told him, now take the seed and break it into two. Shvetaketu did. And there was nothing. Like you see on the picture, inside the seed, there is nothing, normal. And his father told him, yeah, that's it. That essence that will give life to the tree, that will give life to everything, that essence that you can't see, you are that. And that's the key concept of this Upanishad. Tat Tvam Asi, meaning you are that. He told his son, you are that, Shvetaketu. You are that essence that nobody can see. You are part of that Supreme Being that nobody can see. We can feel, we can see the life all around, we can see the creation, but we can't see the essence of things. And he says, Shvetaketu, you are that essence. You are one with that essence. So he teaches him about Tat Tvam Asi. And so now the question comes, how is it possible that we, as a small being, completely deluded, not in a sense, but outside the mind, we think we are this body, we think we are this person. How is it possible that this Atma, which is so small, in the different Upanishad, it is said that the Atma is like the size of a tip of an hair that you cut 1,000 times. Specific, no? It said the Atma is so small. The Atma is so small. And yet, here, the Father say, this Atma is one with Bhagavan. So how is this possible? How is it? And we see that in the same way as the cause and effect, there's different ways this reality and the Atma is one with God. Because God is the cause, everything, all the effects are one with Him. Second one, because He pervades everything. Because the Lord is everywhere. Even Vaikuntha is here, but we don't see it. It's like a different channel on the TV. If you rise the consciousness, you can see the spiritual realm. Everything is here, but we can't see it. So He pervades all things. And so everything is Him. That's what Arjuna told to Krishna when he saw when Krishna in the Gita is showed to Arjuna this universal form. Arjuna then he was super confused. And he said, you pervade everything and so you are everything. In that sense, the Atma is one with Bhagavan also, because the Atma is pervaded, is completely controlled by Bhagavan. Also, the Atma is not independent. This reality, the Atma, depends on Bhagavan. It depends on Him, and so therefore everything is Him only. And also we share the nature of Bhagavan. And that is a key concept in Guruji's teaching, in the Sadguru teaching. In the Siddhanta, we call the Atma Atmata Shakti. So Shakti means this energy, this potency. Atmata means the essence. Because Guruji wanted the Atma to be called the essence in the Siddhanta. So what do we mean when we say the Atma, this individual self, is the essence of Bhagavan? What do we mean by that? And we can see in Oxford Dictionary, there is different definition. And the first one is the intrinsic nature, or the intrinsic quality of something. That is the essence. And that's what we mean when we say the Atma is the essence of Bhagavan. Because the Lord is consciousness. The Lord is existence. And the Lord is bliss. He is bliss. It's not that the Lord possesses bliss. The Lord is that. He is consciousness. He is that bliss. In the same way, we are this essence. We have the small quality. We are the same quality in a small way, let's say. We are that bliss. This Atma is bliss and consciousness. Sat Chit Ananda. We are that. And that is the teaching of this section in the Upanishad that Udaraka told to Shvetaketu. Tadvam Asi. You have the same quality in a small portion as Bhagavan. You are one with Him. You are pervaded by Him. Everything is one with Him. He is the cause. Everything comes from Him. Everything is a potential in Him. So that's a different teaching. It's not that simple, but I hope you understand some of those. That everything is a potential in Bhagavan. And then He manifests everything. But still, when He becomes diverse, in so many beings, in so many diversity outside, still everything is one. So the reality is one of duality and oneness coexisting. Because He pervades everything, everything is one with Him. Because He's the cause, the effect are one with Him. And that's one side, let's say, of Guruji. This teaching of the core of philosophy, which is what is God? What is the Atma? Who is that Atma? Who is that Bhagavan? So that's all those things. And yeah, especially the importance of humility. Because then Shvetaketu, he heard all these things from his father. And then he started to think, and he realized those things. Because the sadguru is not somebody who just give. That's the difference between the guru and the sadguru. The guru gives knowledge. Everybody can give knowledge. But not anybody can give realization of that knowledge. And Guruji said the difference with the sadguru is that he is that Bhagavan that come into this reality and give the realization of that. Guruji is not teaching that only. He gives the realization of that. And that's the key idea behind that. And when Shvetaketu, he realized that by the teaching of his father, he becomes super humble. He becomes super serene. He becomes super calm. And he was immersed into that bliss, which is that Atma. So again, this vidya, dadati, vinayam. That this knowledge made him humble.
I saw some of you collapsing, but maybe because you had too much bhajan cafe. But you get he made a very good job to explain how something so philosophical, it's incredibly practical, and then you can apply it to what Guruji is teaching to all of us. Now, you made the example of the clay and the pot. Can you make an example of something like the clay and the pot? The what? The sea and the wave. The sea and the wave? She said sea and the wave. The ocean and drop of water. Yeah, I'm looking. The spark. The spark? Yeah. Yeah? The statue and marble, yeah. Yeah, that's used a lot in Western philosophy. When you think at Aristotle used it a lot. When you look at the marble, it's just basically like either a cube or it's just a piece of marble. But potentially is already the statue. Yeah? Any type of statue is all of them. So he's saying when you know that, you will know everything. And that's what the beauty is and the reason why we wanted to implement this part of the teaching, because it's something that we will get in the Guru Gita. During the Guru Gita, and if you participated in any of the other commentaries of Guruji, Guruji will not give us that knowledge that is very specific of something that we don't really need. He will talk for a very long time, even though he told me, I will come and I will talk just a little bit. I'll talk. And I said, yeah, Guruji, last time you told me that, you spoke 6 hours and you did like 2 sutras. And he said, but there are so many beautiful stories. So he will tell us stories like the one that Vrishaparva just said that is in the Chandogya Upanishad. And he will give us and bring us closer to that knowledge that when we know it, we will actually know everything. Okay, so that's what we wanted to highlight there. And now Sahadev will talk about the Sadguru in the Bhagavatam.
Jai Gurudev. How many of you are not familiar with the Bhagavatam, or let's say have never heard about the Bhagavatam? So pretty much everyone knows about King Parikshit. Cool. So I can be rather quick. King Parikshit was the great son of Arjuna, and he was cursed to die within 7 days. So because he had a certain spiritual knowledge, a certain understanding that life is not just what we see, but there's something higher to attain, he sat by the bank of the river Ganga to meditate, to engage in spiritual practices, to eventually attain the ultimate good. And so because this was such a brave act, because he was facing death with such great courage, many sages and saints came and gathered around him to support him. But he wasn't exactly sure what the best thing to do would be. Should he meditate? Should he do pranayama? Should he chant Om? I have only 7 days to live. Now is really time I do the right thing. So then he asks the assembly this following question. He said, "Therefore, O learned Brahmanas, I now ask you this question. What is the pure duty in all circumstances, and specifically for those who are about to die? Please consider this and advise accordingly." So Parikshit here represents this true self inside of us. He represents the seeker inside of us. He represents this longing deep inside of us for truth, for the supreme truth. And so he was asking the assembly of great sages. But even in that assembly, there were different opinions. Each sage, each saint had a different understanding, but there wasn't really an agreement amongst them. But when the call of our soul is so sincere and so deep, which our mind might not even be aware of, then the sadguru enters our life. The sadguru comes on stage. And this is exactly what happened when the great Shukadev appeared. At that moment, there appeared the powerful son of Vyasadev, his name was Shukadev, who traveled over the earth, disinterested and satisfied with himself. This last part is really interesting. How it says he was disinterested and satisfied within himself or with himself. And then the question, if someone is disinterested in anything and satisfied within himself, then why does he even act in any way, right? Because whenever we act in the world, there's always a certain motive. No, we always have something to gain by our actions, each of our little actions. No, we usually act because we want to gain something. We want to gain happiness. We want to fulfill a need to feel fulfilled. But Shukadev was perfectly satisfied within himself because he had attained that supreme realization. And this is exactly the case for the sadguru, that he's in this supreme state of God consciousness, and he doesn't have any interest in this world. He has nothing to gain here. No, Guruji has spoken about this many times, that there's nothing that he wants from us in a sense of physical things or any even attention or any of those things, because there's really nothing which we have in our life which he would be interested in, because he has everything. He has that supreme state of God consciousness. There's nothing for him here in this world. And then the question is, why does he act? Well, only out of love. If you have everything, but still serve people continuously, 24/7, non-stop, is this not the greatest act of love? And so the same was between King Parikshit, who represents the disciple, the spiritual seeker, and Shukadev, who took on the role of the sadguru to give him that supreme knowledge, the supreme realization of bhakti. And when we turn to the Guru Gita, it does talk about the nature of the guru a lot. So there's this one verse which is very fitting. It says, "I praise the sadguru, manifestation of the ultimate bliss, bestower of supreme happiness, pure embodiment of knowledge, beyond dualities, heaven-like and ornamented by various such qualities. He's the eternal one, free from impurities, internal witness of all beings, beyond mundane emotion and free from the three gunas." right? Can you think of someone like that? Yeah. But this description is also very much fitting for Shukadev when we turn to the Bhagavatam, because he was also in that supreme state of God realization. And then, when we have someone like that in our life, who is beyond this mundane consciousness, beyond the effect of, let's say, this material reality, then we can inquire from this source of truth, because he has it. Now, Guruji often says, if someone doesn't have something, that person cannot give you. No, only if someone has God, he's the one who can give God. Huh? And so now that Shukadev has entered the scene, he came before King Parikshit, and all the sages anonymously accepted Shukadev as the supreme authority amongst them, even though he was only 16 years old. But because he was in that supreme state of purity, supreme state of God realization. And now when we have someone like that in our life, we can ask the real questions. So King Parikshit asked a brilliant question. He didn't waste any time. He asked this following question pretty much at the very beginning of their conversation. Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. This is so brilliant because it really demonstrates how to approach the Guru. No? It very much reminds of that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which talks about how you should approach the Guru with a sense of humility, with submission, and with a longing for service. Right? And so King Parikshit here represents that single-mindedness. He has seen the world. He's lived as a great king. He has had everything. But now he really wants to get down to the essence. What is the real thing? What should I really do with my life? How can I truly find my purpose? No. They sell in the bhakti shop, they sell this sweater, no? Find your purpose. And when the sadguru enters our life, well, he gives us that purpose. We each have our own duty, but that ultimate purpose is to attain that supreme. So then after this question, Shukadev answered. Oops, now I want to go back. Oh. Right. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries. Anyone amongst you wants to be free from all miseries? Yes? Same. So we must hear about, glorify, and also remember Bhagavan. So God, Srimanarayana, Krishna, Vitala, who is the indweller and controller of all, and the one who removes miseries. So King Parikshit asked this brilliant question, and now Shukadev gives him the recipe. He gives him the road, he gives him the path how to reach that supreme destination. Translation is a little bit loud. So he gives a threefold recipe. The Sanskrit would be Shravana, Kirtana, and Smarana. So we hear from the Sadguru, we hear the name of the Lord, we glorify Him, we sing the name of God, and we remember Him. Right? And this is really the essence of, let's say, sadhana bhakti, the principles of bhakti, which we practice. It's mainly those three. You could say all other forms can in some way be reduced to these three: listening, chanting, and remembering. Yeah? And I would like to focus for this context, particularly about Shravana, which is listening. Because the Guru Gita commentary is coming up, and those of us who are fortunate enough to be here, we will be listening to Guruji. Online also is a possibility. Thank you, Swami Akash. So I'd like to speak a little bit about this glory of listening, which in my view is sometimes a little bit underestimated. Yeah. In the Bhagavatam, there's a story told by Dattatreya about a deer. Yeah. And the deer has one weakness. The deer is very much attracted to sound. So when a hunter plays a beautiful tune, a beautiful music, the deer is very attracted. And like that, it runs into the fangs of the hunter and is at the hunter's mercy. Yeah? So this deer represents the importance of what we're listening to. Yeah? And Guruji made one really, really interesting statement in Mauritius 2 years ago. He said, Bhagwan in the Gita said, the sense that corrupts you is not what you touch, is not what you see, is not what you smell, is not what you eat. What corrupts you is the sense of hearing. What you hear corrupts you. And that is so true. What you hear can bring you both ways, in a positive way or in a negative way, right? Which is really, really interesting, because when we study the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about controlling the mind in so many different places, but before we can control the mind, we need to control the senses, right? Because the senses, they're very much related to the external reality, which is easier to control, right? In chapter 3, Krishna says you have to control the senses first to control the mind, right? But when we think of the senses, often we think maybe what we're eating, what we're watching. But the sense of hearing, in this sense, is often so underestimated because it's such a, let's say, natural thing. We can choose not to look at something, we can choose not to eat something, but when we're in a certain place, unless we plug our, hold our ears, we're always listening, we're always hearing something. And because it's such an ever ongoing process, often we're very much not aware of what we're listening, you know? Whether we listen to bhajans, whether we listen to kirtan, there's some I could recommend right now, but I won't. Whether we're listening to the sadguru, right? Or if we're listening to mundane things, if we're listening to gossip, etc. And just when I first heard that quote from Guruji, I was really quite amazed. Because he was saying, again, what corrupts you is the sense of hearing. Yeah? And for instance, another example that represents the sense of hearing are these fish earrings of Vittala. So the story is that once a poor but very sincere, very pure-hearted devotee offered fish to Vittala, right, to the temple, because he didn't have anything else. No, and the priests there were beating him up because you cannot offer fish to the Lord, no? He's vegetarian, so you have to offer something sattvic. You cannot eat, you cannot offer fish. But still, out of this pure love, Vittala was accepting these earrings, and he turned them into golden earrings. And often when you see Vittala, he usually has these fish earrings. But there's a deeper significance, which Guruji explained also in Mauritius 2 years ago. He said that The fish are connected to the element of water. Yeah, because they swim in water. And the sense of hearing is connected to the water principle. But the mind is connected to the air principle, which is a subtler reality. Yeah? So he said, when you have conquered the hearing, then you come to the point of controlling the mind. Without controlling the ears, and he was stressing, this is very important to understand. All the others you can control, yeah, all the other senses. But hearing, if you don't control hearing, you will never be able to attain controlling the mind. Who in this room would like to control their mind? Yeah. Who of you has controlled the mind perfectly? Less fingers. Right? Because maybe the answer is hidden here, because maybe we have not controlled all our senses, especially the sense of hearing. Yeah. He said that this is the last state of controlling the senses. The ears are the last state. Once you can control the ears, you will be able to control the mind. And I found this so interesting that I just had to share it for this lecture in this context. Because this is the whole process which you see between the sadguru in the Bhagavatam and the disciple in the Bhagavatam. This dynamic of just listening. But not just hearing. It's not just some sound entering through these ears, but actively listening. Some would say listening aggressively, but listening attentively. This is the whole dynamic between Shukadev, the Sadguru in the Bhagavatam, and Parikshit, the disciple of the Bhagavatam. Yeah, he didn't tell him chant big mantras. He didn't tell him do big rituals. He didn't say give in charity. He just said, sit and listen to what I'm telling you. I'm telling you the glory of the Lord. And that alone, from that alone, you can get everything. That alone. And the Bhagavatam obviously also describes this glory of the act of listening, Shravana, the Sanskrit. Krishna, having entered through the opening of the ear, cleanses the impurity of the lotus of the hearts of his devotee, just as autumn rain cleanses pools of muddy water. This is so beautiful. How Krishna is described as entering through our ears and going into our heart and cleansing that, like the rain cleanses pools of muddy water. Because when we hear, let's say, the name of God is not different from God. It is God. And through that, he can enter our heart. Yeah? And this is the power of listening. When we turn to the Guru Gita, it also speaks about this glory of listening to the Guru. Salutations to the Guru, by listening to whose speech, for a moment, or even half a moment, one is liberated from bondage and attains a vision of the self in Shiva. So the question is, why does this not happen to us? Why might we have not attained a vision of the self or of Shiva or of our deity, our Ishtadev? Because again, it's not just hearing, but it's hearing, it's listening with full faith, with full trust to the words of the Sadguru. Because as Vrishaparva was making the point earlier, here in this tweet, he was mentioning this tweet. This world is created by God and everything comes from Him and in this sense is Him. We can also apply this to the words of the Sadguru. Because we take the Sadguru as directly the Supreme Divinity, whatever comes from Him is Him. This world is created by God and everything comes from Him, and in this sense is Him. Those are Guruji's words. So the satsang of the Guru, his words, they're not different from Him. And if they enter through our ears and go into our heart, what kind of transformation can take place? But here, we have to listen attentively, yes, but also the key is repetition. So Guruji tells a beautiful story about a guru and a disciple, and the guru asks the disciple to go to the nearby river and fetch some water. So he orders him to take a specific pot and go to the river. The disciple goes to the river, fills up the pot with water, but as he's walking back to the ashram, the water is leaking through the holes which are at the bottom of the pot. And by the time he arrives at the ashram, all the water has gone. So he shows the guru the empty pot. And then the guru tells him, go again, fetch again with the same pot, water from the river. Yeah, the same thing happens. All the water is leaking out through the holes. Yeah, and the guru tells him, go again, go again, go again, go again. And after some time, the disciple has great faith in the words of the guru. So, we might receive an instruction from Guruji, which to us doesn't make any sense. But if we have that faith, that His grace is in that instruction, then we'll just carry it out because we have faith that He knows better than us. So the disciple had that faith, but eventually he just felt like he had to ask his guru, like, what is the point? Why am I doing this? And so he asked the guru, why do you send me to the river again and again to fetch water with this pot? Because by the time I arrive here, it's completely empty and I cannot bring any water. It's completely useless because there's no visible result. But then the guru said, my dear, you're looking for the result in the wrong place. Because the point was not about bringing the water. The point was just about cleansing the pot. And look at the pot now, how clean it is. Before it was so muddy, there was so much dirt inside, but so many times that water went through the pot and now it's so clean. Now we can use it for its real purpose. And it's the same with us when we listen again and again and again to Guruji's satsang. So while Guruji was commenting on the Narada Bhakti Sutra, he made this beautiful commentary. It's not that only one time you say, yes, I've heard this satsang, so I will not listen to it again. I have heard this bhajan, so I will not listen to it again. No. As long as the mind is not fully transformed, keep listening. Even if you have to listen to the same satsang 10 times, keep listening until it goes deep into your brain and your brain has changed completely. Exactly like that pot which has been cleansed completely by the repeated fetching of water. Something which sometimes amazes me is how people can watch the same movie over and over again, where they come to such a point that they can recite, like in real time, recite what the actors are saying, what the characters are saying. No? And so I was wondering, why can't we do the same for our Guru's satsang? That this enters so deeply inside of us. Yeah. And how many of you were there for the Narada Bhakti Sutra commentary? Online? It also counts. Also counts. So I was also fortunate enough to be there physically some days. And it was really amazing because Guruji was, for hours and hours and hours, giving such deep knowledge, giving such precious wisdom. And for me, it was such a transformative process. And one morning, I still remember, I woke up, and just after waking up, I could hear, after listening so many days for Guruji, I could hear Guruji speaking inside. I could hear his voice speaking. And it was not through these ears, but it was through inner ears. And it was such a beautiful experience, which only comes through his grace and the repetition, the repeated listening and listening and listening. Because often we want to interact with the Guru outside, but or God outside. No? How often does Guruji make the point that we look for God outside, but we don't find him? Because if we want to find him, we have to look inside. No? All the saints on the wall, all the saints in the museum, all the saints, they always say that God resides within. And it's the same, the Guru resides within as well. Yes, we're fortunate enough to have him externally, but the first step is to listen repeatedly, again and again and again and again, to that beautiful Guru externally, until eventually we find him inside. We can hear him inside of us. And after this beautiful, beautiful, long conversation, well, because, okay, it was not just listening, he was also asking questions, Parikshit. The Bhagavatam concludes so fittingly for our next topic. Maybe it was only put in to lead to the next topic. So the Bhagavatam ends like this. The Sankirtan of whose name destroys the reaction to all past misdeeds, and the bowing down to whom appeases all suffering, to that Supreme Lord, Sri Hari, I offer my praises. So if you listen to the Guru repeatedly, again and again and again and again, one thing you cannot miss is how much he's stressing the glory of chanting, how much he's stressing the glory of the name of God. And that's the same thing which all the saints have always spoken about, which we will now hear from Swami Akash.
Before we look at that, I just heard something he said almost at the beginning of when he was talking. It reminded me of something Guruji told me years ago. We were sitting in his dining room, and it was just me and him. The sun was going down, darkness was coming, there was no light. Guruji was sitting on the couch, I was sitting on the floor. And Guruji asked me one of the questions that throughout these years he asked me many times, and he asked me, why do you think that person left? There was a person who left, was on the path, and then at one point that person decided to leave. And so here you are sitting on the floor, sun is coming down, darkness is coming, same darkness of the ignorance that you have. And the Guru, the one that they just defined so greatly, just looks at you and he says, why do they leave? And I gave the answer that basically we realized at the beginning and throughout this lecture, that we are faulty. When we look at the Guru, we want something. We said at the beginning, we have a sankalpa in everything that we do. There is an intention. Sahadev was saying everything that you do is to gain something, to arrive at something. And so I look at Guruji and I say, because you don't work like we work. Like you, is scary. The love of the Guru is scary. It's too much. Where do you put it? How do you gain it? Do you deserve it? How do you apply the economy of our mind to the love that the Guru has for all of us? Can you do it? It's impossible. And how much love does he have for us? It's too much. Where do you put it? It's too much. And so I look at him and I say, Guruji, I think that people think you want something from them because that's how we live our life. We all want something from someone. And then we take our mentality, we apply it to you, and we sit down and we think, you can't love me so much and ask me nothing. And he looked at me and he said exactly what Sahadev was saying. He looked at me in the eyes, and in that moment, his eyes were watery and so deep, so deep. You look inside of them and you feel like they don't finish. And he says, but what do you think I want from all of you? You have nothing that I want. I owe everything. I have everything. There is nothing that you can give me. And then he stops. And in that moment, you don't feel like you have a man in front of you. There's no humanity in front of you. There is this embodiment of eternity just looking at you saying, you are a piece of dust in everything that is me. So he stops. A few seconds, then he says, actually, there is something that I want from you. I want your love, but you don't even know what it is. But he's bringing us to that love. Listening for hours and hours and hours and making his speech part of us, having these things just come out of us, is to allow ourselves to purify our discrimination, to find that love so that we can actually become that love. It's not something that then we apply in the economy of our mind when we engage with other people. That's a lived experience. That's what the true sadguru can give you, gives you a lived experience. You become that bliss. You become that love. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because it was really nice what he said. But if we go into the saints, what are the saints talking about? So in the writing of the saints, the Guru is the one that gives the knowledge of the name of Sri Hari, gives us the knowledge of the name of God. And 8 years ago and 2 days, so 8 years and 2 days ago, the second time in my life that I saw Guruji, I go in the temple, the old temple, where now, where the light is. Smaller room than this. Full of people. We make turns. And I sit there and we are waiting for Guruji for his birthday because it was the 13th of June, 2016. I sit down and I look around and I see everybody's happy, everybody's dancing, nobody's under drugs. The situation was very uncommon for me. And everybody's singing, dancing, and they all know this Sanskrit by heart. They were doing morning prayers. And I didn't know Guruji at the time, but I knew I loved Sanskrit. Even though I had no idea what Sanskrit was about, I had the feeling I would love Sanskrit. I think I love Sanskrit. And so I'm surrounded by these people chanting, and I'm enjoying it a lot, but I also feel bad because I look at them and I'm like, I don't know what to, like, how do you do this thing? I don't know if you had that experience at the beginning of the path when everybody around you is just smashing pages and pages. And even if it's not by heart, they can read it. And then you take the paper and you're just like, what is this? So I'm confused. I mean, between these two feelings of like the happiness of being surrounded by Sanskrit and chanting in the name of God, and at the same time feeling bad because I have no idea how to do it. Meanwhile, that I'm lost in this mental process, Guruji arrives in the temple and he sits down. And again, I had no idea what the Guru was, no idea what the importance of the Guru is. But everybody was staring at him, so I was like, okay, let's stare at the Guru then. So I'm staring at him, and then he just turns and laser focus, laser eyes, is just looks at me, and he does this. And then he says, he was far away, so he said, chant. And he meant chant the prayers. And and I thought, I didn't say anything actually, I didn't even make any type of reaction. He said chant, and I thought, I don't know the words. And he heard my thoughts. It's not that common. And he looked at me and he said, listen and then repeat. Yeah. The first instruction of the Guru was very easy. It wasn't that complicated. Just listen and repeat what I'm saying. That is actually how everything started. And later on, I understood what I was chanting and I know what I'm saying and I see the effect on me. But it was so basic and easy. Just hear what's going on and then repeat it. There is time for everything else. So if you take Gyaneshwar, and when Guruji spoke many times about Gyaneshwar, and we have seen plays where Gyaneshwar is, we're talking about a type of sanctity that is very uncommon, because there is so much in what these type of saint and incarnations do. And when Gyaneshwar came, we're talking about 13th century, he revolutionized the way and the possibility for people to approach God. Because what he did, under the instruction of his guru, he took the Bhagavad Gita and then he translated it in Marathi, in a language that he could understand. And then basically he allowed the spreading of the Bhagavad Gita there. And he says, now on the pedestal of my heart, I will place the feet of my guru. If the Lord wishes to save a hungry man, even sand boiled in water will turn into the sweetest rice. In the same way, when the guru accepts a person as his own, this earthly existence becomes a life of liberation. How can I describe the glory of the guru? For the devotees here and people who follow him since a long time, how complicated is the effort of explaining the greatness of Guruji to people who don't know him? It's such a mess. Because you don't want to look crazy, but what he does is also crazy. So you're like, how do I filter what I'm going to tell you in a way that is approachable for your mind that is clearly not used to listen to this? And it says something amazing. In the same way, when the guru, even sand boiled in water will turn into the sweetest rice. You for sure participated in an online darshan. And sometimes people ask him, oh, Guruji, I have this illness, I have that illness, how and what should I do? And Guruji says, boil salad. Like, so I have this problem in my ears. What do I do? Just put a drop of olive oil every day. And you're like, Aditya, Rishi Aditya, every evening, it's completely crazy, but it is sweet. He has cabbage, the vegetable, cabbage. Yes, cabbage. And he just wraps cabbage every evening around his knee. He doesn't go to the doctor. He just puts cabbage around his knee. And the reason why he's doing it is because Guruji told multiple people that when they had like knee problems and their legs, you put cabbage around the knee. I mean, it's true. It's confirmed knowledge is true. I was there when he said it to multiple people. But then you would think, but it's cabbage. I mean, what is boiled salad into like taking away cancer from my body can do? Like, how does this work? And it works exactly like what Gyaneshwar is saying here. If the Lord wishes to save a hungry man, so if Guruji wishes to heal Aditya's knee, even sand boiled in water will turn into the sweetest rice. Even cabbage applied every evening to your knee will heal it. And the crazy thing is that we have seen this happening multiple times. People got healed because of that. And so once me and Rishi Jagopal were there, And we were participating in one of the conversations where Guruji told someone with a very serious illness, he said, tell this person to boil salad every day and eat it. And eat it. I mean, we're used to miracles, but again, it was multiple times that he said this. And so me and Jagopal just looked at him and was like, Guruji, what is so great in salad that when you boil it, becomes so with such great healing powers? And Guruji said, it's not so much about salad, it's about trusting what the Guru says. The healing doesn't come from salad. The healing comes from Guruji within you, within us. He's the one healing us. And we can be sure that if he decides that boiling salad is not enough, he will tell us to go to have a surgery to that knee. Like he told me last year, if I remember, I went to have a surgery. Aditya is not yet at that stage because he's using cabbage. So you allow and you let the discrimination of the Guru decide what you're supposed to be doing. If you have to do some serious medical therapy or if you just have to boil some vegetables and eat them. But it's again always about the instruction of the Guru. You have to listen to what he says and then you have to apply it. But how complicated it is to listen to something that we don't like, or to listen to something that is not what we expected to hear from him. The first time I met him, he gave the satsang in Verona in April 2016, and he was saying, you know, people come to me and they tell me they can hear the voice inside, my voice inside of them. But then I look at them and they cannot even hear what I say on the outside. So how can they understand what I say on the inside? So why do we do these classes? Why do we do japa? Why do we do puja? Why do we do all the rituals? Why do we listen to him for hours and hours and hours? Because he's purifying us. It's the story of the bucket with the holes that Sahadev was saying. The process of healing. And again, he said something amazing. You're focused on the wrong place to see the outcome of what you're looking for. We're not looking for outside outcome. We're not looking to end the Guru Gita in August and have a better job, to find the love of our life. We're doing it to purify ourselves, to find what truly is important. What Vrishaparva was saying, that thing that when you know it, you don't need to know anything else, because it's that thing that when you know it, you know everything. And so we have Gyaneshwar, great saint, great personality, amazing impact on the life of so many people. And what is he saying? On the pedestal of my heart, I will place the feet of my Guru. That state of greatness, and in that state of greatness, what do you say? I place his feet on my heart. And again, at the end of Vrishaparva presentation, if you remember, humility. That's a clear sign of that higher knowledge. Then we have, for example, Goswami Tulsidas. And Goswami Tulsidas said, I bow to the lotus feet of my Guru, who is an ocean of mercy and is no other than Sri Hari himself in human form, and whose words are sunbeams, as it were, for dispersing the mass of darkness in the form of gross ignorance. Again, another amazing, great saint. What is he saying? He's talking about the Guru. He's talking about the great position that the Guru's feet have. What is one of the main problems of the outside people, outside of this type of culture, that they don't know why there's the worship of the feet? They think, why the feet? Now you got place your hands, place the head. But why the feet? The feet are very disregarded because there is this idea that comes from movies that we have seen and other different scenarios in the West, that when I place my feet above you, I'm dominating you. And the point is that in one way, is the acceptance and acknowledgement that we are part of that everything. We don't understand it yet, and we are seeking help to be more in tune. So we want to be guided. It's a specific request. You want him to guide you. You want to be at the feet. Because you want to be guided inside, not on the outside. You want to be guided inside to find that thing. And there, you will find, most likely, your guru. And in the Hanuman Chalisa, when we chant Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja, and the first part that we're chanting, again, Tulsidas is saying, with the dust of the Guru's lotus feet, I clean the mirror of my mind and then narrate the sacred glory of Sri Ram, the supreme among the Raghu dynasty. So he says, I use the Guru and then I chant about his glory. Because who gave us the knowledge of the name? How many of us would know about Om Namo Narayanaya, Shri Vittala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namah without the Guru? Yeah, I get it, but you would know it in which way? Because, and it's good that you say it, it's true. Nowadays, especially with internet, the great Rahasya Traya mantra, the 3 secret mantras, are not that secret. There are so many secret mantras that are a few clicks away on YouTube. Chanted, explained, written, PDFs, everything that you want. So where is the secret then? What's the secret of the mantra? Is it really the actual mantra, or is that Shakti that can be awakened from the saint, from the sadguru, into that mantra that will allow you to reach perfection? That's what Guruji is giving to all of us. Guruji took Om Namo Narayanaya and spread it everywhere and told everybody, spread the name, chant Shri Vittala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namah. And I don't know if you do it in your life. I don't know if you do japa. But please, let's all make the effort from now until the Guru Gita to do japa every day, because we don't want another situation where there are hundreds of people and Guruji is asking, who of you is doing japa every day? And there are just a few hands up. Please. Because it was really sad. It was really sad. If we think about it, what did the Guru ask to all of us? To chant. It's not so much. Even a puja is not that long. Not that long. But anyway, chanting. And I don't know who of you was there when there was a Chinese man. He was so sweet. We were in the light hall years and years ago, and he told him, Guruji, I'm so busy. I work like 25 hours a day. I work in a bank. I have nothing. I have no time. And Guruji was laughing, and he looked at him and he said, you can chant in the toilet. When you're sitting there, you can chant there. Chant 1 minute is enough. So this is what the Guru is giving. That's what the saints are talking about, because the saints are doing what? They spread the mantra. And when Guruji wants us to be saints, to not to wait until we die to reach that sainthood, he's talking about that. Bring that joy. When I go to Sicily, and last trip that I did, it was crazy. It was crazy because I met so many people and we spread the mantra so much, and people have such a weird reaction to it, but in a good way, because they don't expect to feel what they're feeling when they hear the mantra. I met a random guy through many, many coincidences in a parking lot. And I end up being there with this guy. He has a Japanese flute. And he's playing the Japanese flute, doing some Naruto stuff. And I am there with my French fries, and I'm enjoying this moment incredibly. Because there is some Japanese anime going on, and there are French fries. And then I look at him and I say, well, do you have a guitar? And of course, by chance, there's a guitar under everything in the car. And so we take the guitar out. I sit on the side of the road. He takes his Japanese flute. Some of the other devotees were there, and we start to sing Shri Vittala Giridhari Parabrahmane Namah. And he was so happy, but he was so confused. Because then at the end he said, I don't understand what's going on. What was that? And I said, oh, it's just a mantra. It's just, well, we do it every day. You can come tomorrow, bring some other flutes, and then you can do it with us. And he liked it so much that he actually came the day after to the concert, and he brought all these things, and he was dancing around, and he was loving it. And it was about spreading the name, spreading the mantra. And that was the main point, chanting, because with the hearing, you will purify yourself. Many of us do it mechanically. One day we will be able to actually embody the mantra really. Kabir, Guruji speaks a lot about Kabir. Again, we're talking about 15th century, great saint, great poems. And what Kabir says in the chapter 115 says, "O saints, there is a great error in the world that makes people spend their whole lives in delusion. First of all, they forget the eternal Brahman and accept their own reflections, bodies, as reality. Being deluded by this reflection, they have created multiple desires that have led to vanity. The whole world continues to be deluded and does not fathom the secret of the delusion. This mistake has deluded the world, and the 8.4 million forms of lives are caught in it. People have forgotten what is eternal, and this delusion is eating up everyone. The delusion can be removed through the guidance of a realized guru. He will enlighten you by giving you realization. Kabir says, "O brothers, there is only one medicine for this delusion, and that is knowledge of the reality." Who can give you knowledge of the reality? The realized guru. What type of knowledge? Not the knowledge of the books. How many times we heard Guruji saying, when I say knowledge, I don't mean the knowledge of the books. I met a woman, a girl, some years ago, and we were talking about some of these things, and she said, no, but like in quantum physics, and she starts to explain to me quantum physics. And I'm not a quantum physicist. I read a few things, but I can't tell you that I understand quantum physics. I don't know how many of you understand quantum physics. It's pretty complicated, quantum physics. But she was very, 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 very clear that she understood it. So I look at her and I say, wow, are you a quantum physicist? And she said, no. I said, did you study quantum physics? No. How many books did you read about quantum physics? No, a few chapters in a book. That type of knowledge is the knowledge that Guruji is criticizing, that knowledge from the books. And most of the time, especially nowadays, is because you watch the reel on Instagram. You watch a 15 seconds reel and you think you grasp the essence of reality, and you go and you tell everybody about it, but it's just a 15 seconds from a random guy that you decided is a great authority because that guy or that person itself decided is a great authority, not because of outside recognition. And then we take that as reality and we acquire it as knowledge, and then we behave in the world with that knowledge, forgetting that the true knowledge we're looking for is the one that the Guru gives. And then we have Guru Nanak, and we know that Guru Nanak was a great, again, personality. We're talking about the Sikh religion, the movement and the culture they created is about like helping everyone, that humans are all together, and it's about helping each other. It's very beautiful mentality behind that. And then he says, without the Guru, spiritual wisdom is not obtained, and peace does not come to abide in the mind. O Nanak, without the Nam, the name of the Lord, self-willed people who follow their minds depart, having wasted their lives. The name is so important. But if you think about it, why are these saints always pushing on the name? Why? Why is the mantra so important? Because we're all chanting a mantra. How many of you are anxious as personalities? It's fine. The truly anxious one probably didn't lift their hands. So, because you're in so we're actually, at the end, we're all anxious. I don't know if you had that experience, but you might be very confident in so many fields of your life. But especially the guru can always find that field where you're not that confident. And then you become anxious. But what happens in anxiety? What is going on in anxiety? There's a mantra going on. There is a repetition of fear. You are just repeating the worst possible scenarios going on in your mind. At university, you have one of the greatest examples of this. He's going to ask me the wrong question. He's going to ask me something I don't know. I studied all 3 books, but I forgot to read between page 40 to 42, and for sure he's going to ask me that. And then you get lost in fear, and you end up very not in balance, completely enveloped in this problem. And then you end up with the professor actually asking you that. It happened to me in a pedagogy course where I was asked about the only part of the 2 books I didn't read. But I was so convinced he was going to ask me that I kind of manifested it myself. But so the mantra is always going on. So what is the guru doing? The guru comes and says, chant this. One of the first instructions Guruji gave me was, do japa every day, 16 rounds. Don't skip a day. And I don't know if you ever ended up in that situation, but I found myself, like last night, 4 a.m. I wake up at 5:30. And I have to think, I sleep 1.5 hours, but I didn't finish my japa. At the beginning, you try to finish your japa sitting, or you lay down, one of the greatest ideas you can have in life. Finish your japa laying down on your bed. It doesn't work. So there are 2 possibilities. You either succumb to slumber and you end up dead into the bed, or what do? You find alternatives to bring forth the instruction of the guru. Chant, because the mantra will help you. Sleep 10 minutes less, but do the mantra rather than sleeping 10 minutes more and not doing the mantra. Why? Because day after day, your mind will be cleansed. And when you sleep much better. And you have a better relationship with your mind. And so you're going to have a better relationship in your sleep. You're going to be better. A few advices I can give you is don't sit, because it doesn't work. You fall asleep also when you sit, but walk around in your room. That's what I do. I just walk around. Mirabai, when Guruji was talking about it, Mirabai, amazing. She inspired so many people. She keeps inspiring so many people. And what is she saying? The guru, her guru, Ravidas, gave the book of knowledge. The wound inflicted by the divine name of Hari struck deeply into my heart. When Guruji was chanting once, we were up here in the darshan hall. He was doing, I think he was singing Vittala Maza. Vittala Maza, 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 Vittala Maza, hey Vittala. And I'm sitting like at this distance from him, sitting on the floor, staring at him. And he just, when he starts and he goes faster and faster. And then at one point he goes into his Vittala, 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 Vittala. And I'm just staring at him and I'm doing Vittala, 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 Vittala. And it was the beginning. And the more it does Vittala, 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 the more I feel my legs with like some, I don't know, goosebumps. And I'm like, oh, this is super cool. And then all this feeling goes up and it takes my body and it just goes up. And I'm thinking, what is going on? But it's very cool. So I keep chanting, Vittala, 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 Vittala. And then it goes up, it reaches my throat. So my entire body is completely in, I don't know, you can say bliss, but it's an amazing feeling. And it's just going up my throat and I'm just, Vittala, and I just stare at Guruji, Vittala, Vittala, Vittala. But when it's getting closer to my mind, where my fear is, where my attachment is, where my problems are, where everything that I have built in so many lifetimes is, there's a second voice that is not the one of enjoyment that appears, but it's the one of what happens when you lose control? What happens when this goes off? But I decide, I say, okay, let's do it. The guru is there. Let's try. And we go and Vittala, Vittala, Vittala. And I arrive at the point close to my eyes where I think, that's it. It's going to happen. And I'm thinking it's going to be the greatest enjoyment of my life. And when I'm ready to give up, Guruji turns, Vittala. Because the Guru gives you that drop of water in the ocean to tell you what I can give you in that ocean is not the drop. I can give you the entire ocean. You can enjoy everything. It's going to be so cool. But not yet. Yeah? You have to work a little bit. So again, that's the beauty, for example, what Mirabai is saying. It was so strong, the effect of the name in my heart. It just wounded me. It's just there. It's an open wound. It keeps going. And that's something that, again, I advise you. If you never felt the beauty of the mantra, the beauty of the name, it's just because it didn't happen yet, but it will happen. So give yourself more chances to experience that, because once you have it, you realize everything else is absolutely useless. And I'm not saying abandon your job or these kind of things. I mean, it has to become your companion in everything that you do. Because you're ready to spend the next 5 years feeling nothing, to chant Shri Vittala Giridhari Parabrahmanenama once and have the same feeling I had on that day. So, drawing into conclusion, because Rishi Amara is there at the door. So, understanding the Guru-Tattva, understanding the nature of the Guru. Let's go through the summary of the sections. Now, we saw with Vrishaparva, we heard the story of Shvetaketu. Spoke about true knowledge, lower knowledge, higher knowledge. That knowledge that when you have it, you know everything. That's something that you realize philosophy might be boring sometimes and it might sound dry, but actually, when you dive into it, it's very beautiful. You're looking for that knowledge that when you have it, everything else is known. That's what the Guru can give you. So that's the way you have to look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 34. Go to the one who has seen the truth. Go to the one who can give you that truth. Serve him. Stay with him. Because they have seen the truth. They can give it to you. They can give you the true knowledge of who you are. And then, consequently, the knowledge of God. Then we see with Sahadev, we have seen the Srimad Bhagavatam, the process of bhakti and the goal of prem, and the importance of listening, the importance of hearing, the importance that it has makes something that Guruji says so yours that it comes up as a natural answer. And many years ago, Swami Revati said something that really just was printed in my brain and never left me. He said, you have to rent the discrimination of the Guru. Our discrimination is not good enough. You have to learn the way he reacts to things. What he says so good that it becomes the way you think. And so, for example, as a Swami, when people come to me and they ask me things, I don't try to answer how I think. I try to remember, what does Guruji answer when they ask him that? What is his general answer? And then, of course, sometimes might be more individual, but you have to make the word of the Guru so yours that then you become an embodiment of what he says. The same with the name. We have to become these pillars of light going around and spreading that. And then we've seen now in the writings of the saints, that they talk about the glory of the name of Sri Hari that was given to them by the Guru. There is always the reference to the Guru at the beginning. Because it's the Guru that is the one that gives you that power, that Shakti, that awakening of the divine name that then can lead you to that true knowledge, to experience that prem, and then arrive at the moment, like King Parikshit, when you are on the point of death, that you have that knowledge, because you have been instructed by the realized Guru. And so, of course, the importance of the sadguru, that is the one who gives this prem, this unconditional love, the love that scares us because it's too much, because it's not following the way we think. And then is the one who can give us the realization of Bhagavan, the realization of God. So just to clarify, and this is something that Guruji will talk about during the Guru Gita commentary in August, and he does talk about constantly and also in his tweets. This divine love, this unconditional love, is the ultimate goal of bhakti, is the ultimate goal of devotion. You're looking for that prem, you're looking for that unconditional love. This love is the only true wish of each of us. And amazing how we did the slides before Guruji tweeted, and he didn't see the slides, but when he tweeted this morning, he wrote, "What would you choose if you could choose every moment of your life?" What would you choose if you could choose every moment of your life? Skipping, he says, "Yet if Bhagavan stood in front of us and told us directly that we have the power to choose every moment of our life, what would you choose? How would you live your life? How would you choose to feel? If you could choose him anew in every moment, would you?" And that's an integrity question. That's how much of an hypocrite are you, and me also? Would you actually want that? Would you want him every moment, again and again and again? Because the saints that we spoke about are in that state. They want only him, constantly. So final thoughts. Realization through the grace of the sadguru. Oh yeah, Amara, good. Well, I didn't really say that, but if you understood that I said not to listen to your doctor, but just to what Guruji says, that's not what I said. Listen to what the doctor says, and listen to what the Guru says, and make your own conscious decision. Okay. Also calculate again that, for example, I did go and have a surgery on my knee. Okay. And Aditya can walk and live his life. So please don't take out of context what was said, because I know some of you might be very good in that. Maybe you're even hired to do that. I don't. But of course, and by the way, just thank you for opening the topic, because it's really something I wanted to say. You know what my dad used to tell me at the beginning, years ago? What if he tells you to jump off the bridge? Would you jump? It's 2024, is 8 years, and he never asked me to jump from any bridge. You know what he asked me for? He asked me to chant the name, to do puja and abhishekam. He told me to love God, to work on myself, to do introspection, to become a better person. And he was always there to help me, sustain me, and guide me in every single step of this amazing inner process for me to become a better person, because he's already a great person. So, now, better, Amara? He went up, great. So he was happy. No, but that's true. That's true. I mean, I invite you to say the same to the people who challenge you in this. Tell them what he's actually asking us. Tell them, go and listen to the talks he gives. Go and meet him. He's not going to ask you to do crazy stuff. He's going to tell you to chant the name of God. It's unbelievable. Anyway. Huh? Oh, my father now is chanting the mantra. Yeah, but I didn't convince him. I didn't tell him. I went on with my life, and then he saw the changes, and he decided that maybe there was something he didn't see. But that's his own process. It's fine. My dad is a good guy. He's a good guy. It was just fear. Fear, that's a problem. Fear. So, final thoughts, realization through the grace of the Sadguru. So the Sadguru is the one that can give you that realization through his grace. We have to do our effort. We have to enjoy the path. We have to enjoy the practices. We have to enjoy the name. But he's the one who ultimately will give us this grace. And again, actually fits with the last point. That is, what does he want us to do? Exactly that. To become a saintly person. To help people, to smile. Like, it's really unbelievable, the critique Guruji receives, but when you listen to what he tells us to do, it's mind-blowing how people can think bad. He says, smile, be a good person, be kind. Before being spiritual, be a good human being. Chant the name of God. Remember God in everything that you do. See God in everyone. That's what he's asking us to do. So, in the conclusion of the conclusion, in August, from the 11th to the 20 something, 24, 23, 5, 20s-ish, 20 there. Amara, you also don't know. 24, I trust you. From the 11th to the 24th, according to this reliable source, Guruji will give the commentary on the Guru Gita online and physical. There is still place here. If any of you is still interested to come, you can come for 7 days or for 14. And online, there's going to be endless space. Remember that those events are translated live. You will have access to the recordings for the next 12 months. So you can listen to it again and do what Sahadev was saying to make it so yours that you can just do it as if it's a movie that you know. And there was a devotee who asked me, should I come physical or should I do it online? And I looked at her and I said, whatever is fine, just any of the two. You should do it anyway, because everything we spoke about today, everything the Vedas speak about, everything the Upanishads say, everything the Bhagavatam says, everything that the poems of the saints are saying is what we can experience when Guruji is giving 14 days of commentary on the Guru-Tattva, on the nature of the Guru, on the song of the Guru. And so there is really no reason why we should not be there. Om Shanti 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 Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Prem se bolo Satguru Deva Sri Swami Vishwananda Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Samasta Bhakta Mandali ki